Okay, so we're now being recorded for everybody's, so everyone knows we're being recorded. I'd like to welcome you all to this Esdebe webinar. As you can tell, it's about TrueNAS distributed storage and other iX updates. And on the panel today, we have Mario Blandini.
Hello, how you doing?
Who's over in America, so that you can expect a bit of a delay sometimes. We have Frank.
Hi, I'm in the UK.
Can you tell us a bit about what you do as well?
Okay, I'm the account executive and partner manager for the international team. Been with iX Systems for 3 years. Wow, 3 years already, and loving it.
Good. And we also have Eric.
Hi, yeah, I am the system engineer for basically the international team, and I'm based in Belgium.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we have an agenda for today, which is always useful. I mentioned earlier, just for any latecomers, that we are going to be recording this. It will be available on the website. So if you want to share it with anyone, then please feel free to do so. Also, if you want to ask any questions, there is a session for questions at the end, but if between now and then you want to pop up with any questions, then please feel free. So without any more of ado, I'd like to just say, ask Frank first question, please. How is it feeling within iX at the moment? You've been working hard on new versions of Core and Scale and Enterprise and other software services like globally distributed storage.
Very, very excited. Probably tell the excitement in my voice. TrueNAS has always been unified storage, and the latest offerings have more IT organizations learning about and evaluating TrueNAS as a choice across all tiers of storage. We always talk about storage freedom, and that's a word that I'm going to try and use that word, storage freedom or data freedom, in every single answer that I give. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to try and do it. We realize that not one size fits all. And so therefore, we give our users choices and options to manage their data in a way that best suits them. And even more so, with new additions to the family, such as Scale and Global Distribution Storage. So to answer your question, yes, we are very, very excited.
Thank you. Well, you can tell Frank got the bit between his teeth here, can't you? So Eric, most people know what TrueNAS is, whether it's Core or Scale or Enterprise. TrueNAS is a unified open storage software, but in this case, what does unified mean to you?
Well, unified means that we have a storage solution that has basically the flexibility to support file, block, and object services. So basically, all of the choices of access now, as a cloud gateway or a local on-premise, basically workloads change, and we include everything by default from day one.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. And to you, Mario, we've heard from Frank about his excitement of what's going on recently. Can you take us through, from your perspective, what's new within the last few weeks from TrueNAS?
100%, Jonathan. I've been here for 9 months, and it's been a really exciting 9 months. I lost my hair like the other gentlemen on the panel, my colleagues Frank and Eric, probably working for other companies where it didn't have a strong purpose. And so my excitement really, Jonathan, is that we exist as a company to give this stuff away for free, and we're able to do that because more IT organizations are looking to use some of this technology in place of other choices. So speaking of choices, that's what Frank laid out. Our scale-up storage, TrueNAS Core. It reached a very major milestone, version 13 earlier this year, and just 3 weeks back, the U2 release was made, and it's the signal after lots of testing in our community that based on the maturity and the performance and all the things we're seeing, we recommended above the previous version for as stable or better an experience. So that's really cool for general IT workloads. The same can be said about TrueNAS Scale Angelfish, and we'll talk more about those definitions. But the first version of Scale, version 2202, it reached its .3 release, thus signaling the same thing for general IT use cases. And just as exciting, which will be available on all platforms by the end of the year, the beta for the next version of TrueNAS Scale, Bluefin, was made, and we're excited to talk a little bit more about globally distributed storage and how it fits into TrueNAS and greater use cases. So a lot of exciting stuff just in the past several weeks. So it was just last week, in fact, Jonathan, that we made our open announcement with a partner, Storage, for globally distributed storage. So I can confirm that you are the first iX True partner to be telling your audience about it, and that's why we're happy to be here.
That's all good news for us, really. And so, I think that Storage relationship is something we're going to hear a lot more about going forwards. And if anyone's got any questions about it, then feel free to pop your questions in the chat. So yeah, Frank, what do these use choices mean when you're considering TrueNAS?
So now you have so many choices out there. So you're not restricted with scaling up, you could scale out. So you're not restricted with the 50 petabytes that you can achieve by scaling up. Now you can go much further than that. So more data freedom and common operating environment for many tiers of storage. And we have noticed that many of our users are beginning to recognize that, and recognize us for many trends of storage. So yeah, so it's many choices, so much more choice. And I always keep on saying storage freedom, data freedom.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. So Mario, would you like to give us an overview of what's in 13.0 U2? And I think to help you with that, I'm going to share a slide for you. So just bear with a second.
No worries. I'll start by describing that 13 is just the natural successor to version 12, which has proven by all historic measures to be the most widely deployed and highest quality TrueNAS version ever. And 13 builds on and retains all the services and middleware from version 12. And really the improvements are across the board, be it security, availability, quality, performance. But for demanding use cases, users are reporting to us some very significant improvements in drive scalability and overall performance, which I think you have some thoughts on that too, Jonathan. Eric can certainly tell us a little bit more about some of the specific things. But yes, there are some stats like 95% reductions in things, 800% improvements. So there's some really cool next generation user experience built into TrueNAS 13.
Thank you. So Eric, what from your perspective and your technical perspective would you think was more different and what has been improved compared to 12.0?
Basically a lot. And the difference between 12 and 13 is kind of major. From the look and feel, it's kind of the same. It's the exact same GUI as before, slight changes left and right, but actually there's no learning curve when you would go from 12 to 13.
Okay.
Everything has been changed under the hood, and there are a few very important things. One of the first things is that we moved to FreeBSD version 13.1. That actually a lot of legacy code has been removed, and hence there was an incredible performance boost in booting, for instance. Another thing is the OpenZFS version, an update to version 2.1. The big advantage there is that actually the time to import a pool has been improved by over 80%. So that increases performance and especially availability in high availability systems. Another thing that has been upgraded was the iSCSI target. What we did there was we included support for larger I/O sizes. And again, that results in a performance improvement. Last but not least, NFS updates, where we went approximately about 400% performance increase compared to version 12.
Wow.
And that's about it.
So what we're saying then is that the improvements that can be summarized as security and performance and functionality.
And high availability as well.
Excellent. So Mario, we talked about 12 and 13. What about scale 22.02.3? And can you explain the difference between Angelfish and Bluefin, please?
I'd be happy to. I'll start with the second part. Open source loves its code names, and fish are the theme for TrueNAS Scale. Somewhat of an obvious pun, though it is an acronym in and of itself, SCALE with features. So starting with A, the first release, and B for the second generation, Angelfish being the first and Bluefin being the second release with significant new capabilities. And what's new specifically in 22.02.3 are similar performance that you saw in 13. There's a lot of things that are common across both platforms that allow us to do that. And a lot of improvements around SMB and options for clustering. We have a blog available for folks looking to do different type of cluster configurations there, but really getting the features built into it so it's more, I don't want to say enterprise ready, but think of it as having more of the things that people who use it for demanding enterprise use cases look for. And so specifically around security and other elements like that.
Excellent. So Eric, what would you say the future for production with Angelfish 22.02.3 is?
Well, as Mario explained, basically 22.02, at this moment, we have about 27,000 early adopters. Now, this is a first release, and we can recommend it for general IT use cases. Now, we also know that many IT experts don't like first releases. So, and prefer to wait for a second version and so on. The second version, which will be the Bluefin, that will be launching later this year.
Excellent. So Mario, what recommendations would you make for which edition of TrueNAS and which specific version of that edition is best? And lastly, when should you upgrade?
Well, there's a couple questions in there. Starting with the idea of us being open source. It's not like your usual IT product. When it's announced, the expectation is that all the testing's been done by the company and it's put out into the world enterprise ready. We prefer rather to demonstrate that through using the community to build up and build out the maturity and reliability of the software. And we're blessed to have the biggest community on the planet for the most deployed storage operating system. But when features are ready and when we recommend you use them are two different things, because the open source part of our brain says test away. Our recommendations to IT customers and working with partners like Esdebe is to make sure that if we recommend it, you're going to have an absolutely fantastic experience. So our software status page, which is up on our website, it being one of the most popular questions we get on live chat, we put these recommendations together where, based on the type of user you are, from a developer to a mission critical user, you can see what we would recommend. And so using from this page, we just went to 13.0 U2 for general use cases. We expect that to be ready to go down to mission critical as it gets more testing and validation in the marketplace. So that's the place you'll want to look if you want to get our recommendation on when it's time to upgrade. I'll kick it to Eric. I think he has the next question to provide some extra color on exactly when and how easy it is. We always recommend folks, if you have TrueNAS Enterprise, give us a call because our support team's available there to give you advice as well on when to upgrade. And we put blogs out all the time with specific instructions on when. So it was just recently, as I said last week, that we made the recommendation for U2 in general use cases.
So if you want to reference that at any time, it's truenas.com/software status. So as you can see on the page just down below. So as mentioned, Eric, from a technical perspective, we've heard the high level, but down at the nuts and bolts where it gets pretty hot and hairy, what would you say, what practical advice would you give and to when to consider migrating or upgrading your TrueNAS software?
Sure. So currently with TrueNAS Core or Enterprise, as an example, we are at the version 13 update 2. Update 2 is basically enterprise ready. So it is, I would say, recommended for conservative people out there who are still on version 12 U8. This is a moment where you can say, yes, we can do the migration to the version U2. So why? Because U2 is for general IT use and the same for scale.
Okay. So, Frank, can users with Core or Enterprise migrate to scale?
The answer is yes. TrueNAS Core, I think to date we have about 50 million downloads, 1 million active users at any given time. There's somebody on this call that I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to mention his name, has huge amount of petabytes running on TrueNAS Core. So the answer is yes, and I get that question asked every day by many of my customers. So the answer is most definitely, and like I previously said, data freedom, and anyone who starts with scale up can migrate to scale out whenever they're ready to do so. Remember, it's many trends of storage all the time.
So Eric, how does migration work from Core to scale? What's involved in this?
Actually, this is something very cool. If you have a TrueNAS Core or Enterprise system out there and you would like to move to scale, actually, it's a very simple and easy process. Scale and Enterprise or Core are based on the same file system, ZFS. So it makes the migration from Core Enterprise to scale very simple. What we will do is it's a single click button in Enterprise or Core, where we will import everything like users, user groups, all the shares, all the volumes, all the data, everything will be migrated over without actually having intervention. So this is something very cool and very nice.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, I'm not, right. So I think we've got to that bit of the presentation where we have to ask the question about globally distributed storage. Now, Eric, Frank,
I'll take that one.
Let's give that one to Mario.
All right, sure. So globally distributed storage, or GDS for short, think of it as S3 compatible storage. So it's cloud storage, not on your premises, and for a reason. A lot of organizations are still struggling with how they geographically distribute data, even within their region and across regions. So think of it as having that advantage, multi-region by default, but the actual experience is twice the performance and 80% lower cost. Or you can think about it, 5 times more storage for the exact same price as the cloud providers. So this being available for TrueNAS users, backup is one of the And data protection is one of the biggest use cases people think of us for, that tier 3, even though people are using us for tier 1 and tier 2 now as well. But this is exciting for us because in addition to the cloud providers, which naturally all of them are there, we have a partnership to natively deliver client and or node software within the TrueNAS system so that you can get access to that SaaS-like subscription.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario. And Eric, this has got to be really complex stuff. So briefly, without going into too much detail, because we've only got a few minutes here, how does it work?
Well, actually, it's not that complicated at all. For now, as of today, it's already included in a Bluefin beta version, but it will be available on every TrueNAS system. And actually, it's available in two ways of using it, as Mario explained. You can have it as a client or as a storage node. So as a client, actually, it is a service within the data protection portion of TrueNAS, where you can actually just buy storage X amount a month you need, where you can do backups, archiving, and things like that. In and out to a global distributed storage, as if you were using Amazon or Google or those vendors. Now, it can also work as a storage node. It means that actually you turn your TrueNAS system or a portion of it as storage that you can sell to the storage, well, globally distributed system. So you can actually earn money by using it.
Excellent. So, Frank, could you tell us a bit more about the TrueCommand side of things, and how is that? What is it used for?
So managing a single TrueNAS system is easy, but imagine having to manage a fleet of them, could be even up to hundreds, thousands of them. That's where TrueNAS TrueCommand comes in. So basically, it's a single pane of glass a management tool. So basically, you can manage your TrueNAS. It could be TrueNAS Core, TrueNAS Enterprise, and scale from one single pane of glass.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, before you go.
Oh, yeah.
We give you freedom to manage the entire fleet. Because I remember I said I was going to use storage freedom in every answer. So yeah, so storage freedom. We give you freedom to manage your entire fleet from a single location.
You got there in the end. So, Mario, what does this mean for the future of iX?
Well, we're the most known, if people know who we are. One of my hopes is we can become more known as more users share their experiences. We're known as the company behind TrueNAS, and our customers work with partners like Esdebe to design in appliances that meet or exceed other choices that are in the marketplace. And we're seeing a lot more organizations choose TrueNAS Enterprise, or at least evaluate it because you can benefit from open source economics and you get all that data freedom stuff. I know IT people are, we are, let's just say we are ritualistic or habitual people. And so it's probably open source is the last place in the data center. It's really becoming more mainstream is in storage for good reason. But in parallel with that, we have a catalog of SaaS services, storage services that are part of the evolution of our offerings so that any user of the world's most deployed storage operating system, TrueNAS, can take advantage of some of these capabilities. $4 a month for a terabyte, for example. That's actually not a bad thing at all if it could be integrated in. And so whether it's people using DIY TrueNAS as a home user or the enterprise organizations that work with partners like Esdebe, we just see a lot more choice coming, and our evolution as a company continuing to grow. It's been exciting these past 3 years to see how the company has grown, and we're on a great trajectory to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I've got a couple of questions that have come in from the audience, which a certain young Mr. Chris Parkin would like to say thank you to the team at iX for building an incredible product set and the continued quest to bring storage freedom to the world. Frank, I think that Chris has been listening. So given the clear push towards Linux in the open ZFS development world, and in turn iX's most recent products, TrueNAS Scale, how do you see the future of TrueNAS Core Enterprise and FreeBSD? Is it just a matter of time before TrueNAS Core and Enterprise go away and iX are back to a single product with TrueNAS Scale? Question mark. How, Eric, you haven't answered the question for a while. It's a good one for you, I think.
Actually, it's a good question. I get this question quite often. And the answer is very simple. The two products or product lines will be for, well, actually going on like forever. Scale will be Scale and Enterprise Core will be Enterprise Core. That it will not go away. It are basically, those are two different solutions. As Frank explained, or Mario, Scale is about scale out. Enterprise Core is about scale up. And it's under the umbrella of TrueNAS, with, of course, different solutions, but there will be different solutions, and developments will go on for FreeBSD under the Enterprise Core version. Scale will continue to be developed. So yeah, it will be two solutions.
Hey,
Okay.
Jonathan, if I can add a little bit to that.
Yeah, sure.
I joined this company after the religious debate had been had, because there's a lot of passion around, I'm a FreeBSD person or I'm a Linux person. Literally, they are from the same denomination of the same church, yet across the street from each other, there's this kind of weirdness, right? Well, it's as simple as saying that for the container and let's say software services ecosystem, clearly the easiest way to deploy that is with Linux versus BSD. And so think about the hyperconvergence that is also offered in TrueNAS Scale as being the biggest differentiator. It scales out and has open hyperconvergence for Kubernetes and container and Docker and all of that stuff, making it fundamentally different from a building blocks perspective. And given the rich ecosystem where we could have 1,000 apps on TrueNAS Scale very soon, think of that just being the architectural choice as to why Linux was the natural evolution. It's been exciting because we're now able to talk to more of those folks that were Linux aficionados who would maybe turn their nose up at FreeBSD. Okay.
That goes a long way to answer a couple of the other questions. I'm not sure who it was who asked, but is TrueNAS Core going to merge with Scale at some point in the future?
The answer is no, and though they do share common elements, and we have some documentation and such on that could describe what those commonalities are. But generally speaking, you can expect that both of these are continuing on into the future.
And another question here for Eric. Is there a performance difference between Scale and Core if Scale is running on a single node, not using the scale out features?
I like those questions.
Yeah, I know you do. That's why I'm throwing it straight at you. Over to Eric.
Actually, well, and this is where I come back to the thing I said before. It is a first release, a first version of Scale, meaning the most important thing when bringing out this solution was to have the functionality. SMB sharing, NFS, iSCSI, basically everything a TrueNAS system needs to do without looking at the performance. So in the first version, it is correct that the performance was not up at the same level as Core. This is something that is being developed right now as we speak. In the next version, the Bluefin, that will be at the same level as a TrueNAS Core.
Okay, I've got another question here that goes along like this. It's it's based on the fact that in general, storage admins are a very conservative lot and don't necessarily need or want the new features straight away, as long as everything's ticking away okay. And bearing in mind that security updates are very important. Have iX considered a long-term stable release of core or enterprise that would be continue to support specific version for say 10 years in the same way as CentOS?
I'll take the question. And
good one,
I think
Mario. I was kind of hoping someone would.
Yeah, the key word there was security, naturally. But then this idea of a long-term stable. So if you want security and long-term stable, they're somewhat mutually exclusive in the sense we've had users of ours that are still on TrueNAS 11 versions that have never been down for years, right, Eric? So
Absolutely.
The idea is that that you can consider those versions long-term stable, but one of the challenges we have is being in an open storage company that's leveraging other open technologies is oftentimes those things need to be updated, and we can't go from a major version of FreeBSD, for example, without doing a software upgrade. So I think this is an idea. Version 12.8 has been, I think, stable now for 18 months and working there. But if you're looking specifically for the security updates that would be a part of the next revision up on the OpenZFS or FreeBSD or Linux side, that often dictates that. So I think in practice, people have found that we have long-term stable things, especially in fire or air-gapped environments, that they can have less worry. If it's public facing, certainly in scale that it can be, and people will use it that way. There's a trade-off, because if you do want the latest security, then there are some times where the only way we can deliver that is with a major upgrade.
Thank you, Mario. So if there's any more questions, please let me know. I've got a couple more questions here before we wrap. But Mario, I'd like to just ask you about the roadmap for TrueNAS in the second half of 22.
Sure. We're halfway through the second half of 22, at least nearly here in a couple of days. Certainly in Q4, you can expect to see additional announcements from us talking about milestones for both of our TrueNAS Core and TrueNAS Scale. As was mentioned, just when it's available, Eric mentioned that the globally distributed storage will be available for all editions before the end of the year. And in the coming weeks, you could expect the next one to be made available. But we're also going to be introducing some additional additional platforms. I'm sorry for the confusion. In the sense that we, for folks that work with partners like Esdebe, our R50 line has been upgraded to Generation 3, and we're going to be introducing a new exciting product that will keep on the down low for now, but in 3-4 weeks time, you'll be able to start telling your customers about that. Another option for our hardware portfolio, which we're excited to sell because it's what allows us to do what we love doing every day, which is to build more TrueNAS software.
Well, that's a bit of a teaser, Mario. Come on, whisper it in my ear, and I promise not to tell any of the 14 people here.
All right. Well, I mean, some of the folks here might even have suggested the same. So, think of something that might be small yet big. Maybe that's one
way of putting it.
Something small that's bigger.
Okay, excellent.
Exactly.
So, lots of teasing going on here, folks. You just have to keep an eye on things, and I'll let you know as soon as I know. So, Frank, does TrueNAS come with enterprise support?
TrueNAS can come with enterprise support. As we say, storage freedom. TrueNAS Core is community supported, but TrueNAS Enterprise comes with 3 levels of support, which is a bronze, silver, and gold support. So the answer is yes, it does.
Thank you. And last question that I've got here is, what about security concerns with open source? And I'm going to direct that over at Eric.
That's a good one. Actually, well, I can give two answers. One of them is actually we have a huge community. So every time there is a security concern whatsoever, somebody will find it, will mention it, we're gonna solve it right away. So regarding security in open source in TrueNAS, in my opinion, there is no other storage vendor who is as secure as TrueNAS. There are a few other companies, I won't name them, who actually this year, I think already 5 times came into the news with security issues. Now, that's one thing. If you want to know more about this, we have a dedicated website for this security, where actually all the details are explained on what CVE that we recently updated and things like that.
To add to that, Eric, industry analysts starting 2 years ago, Jonathan, including Gartner and IDC, had to write research that said fundamentally open source software is more secure by virtue of it being in the public view and open for inspection. And organizations, especially the one vendor that Eric mentioned, is not an open source company. And one might question what they're doing behind the scenes to have 5 different incidents for 5 different attacks. So none of those affected TrueNAS in any way. And a lot of it has to do, as Eric mentioned, we have no secrets. We want people to help find these things. And so we fix them. And arguably, it allows us to do that faster than a closed sourced proprietary software company.
So just as a feedback to your little teaser, there's now a book running on the chat line as to whether or not it's a rackable mini. Now, on the
I've been advised by counsel to invoke my 5th Amendment privilege, which we get from British common law. 5th Amendment means I have the right not to plead innocent and not admit
without
guilt.
incriminating yourself. Excellent. Well, that's fine. So we won't talk about that then. All bets are off, guys. I'm sorry, but Mario's not telling. Thank you very much for your answers, and for all the guests who've been here. Thank you very much for your investing your time in this. I hope it's been useful, interesting, and thought-provoking for you. And if you've got any questions about it, then please don't hesitate to drop me a line, or Frank or Eric. Mario's a bit further away, so you know, he may not join in, but
Eric is renowned for blowing people up on Slack within 2 milliseconds of coming up with a question. So we're very tightly connected there. And if I can say one more thing, Jonathan, thanks for inviting us to speak with your audience today. We're excited about sharing the value of data freedom and what we like to say true data freedom, meaning open source and freedom to move it everywhere. But with it's partners like you that allow us to bring our wares to market. And so thank you for organizing this discussion. And I can confirm you are the first true partner showing the tenacity of Jonathan and Zara and the team. They're the first ones to get anyone from our corporate office to talk with their audience about what's going on new at TrueNAS after that latest announcement. So it was great to be here with you today, Jonathan.
And thank you very much for your time and stuff like that. But just so you all know, we will do another webinar either late in the next quarter, but more likely early in January. So we'll be in touch with you all about that nearer the time. Thank you very much for your attendance. Oh, goodness me, one more question. Just come. Yeah, okay, we're going to carry on doing what we're doing. So thanks very much for that. And thank you for your time. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend. And we'll hope to speak to you soon over the next few weeks. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.